So welcome to Live with the Joneses, where faith comes first, family is our mission, and together every day is an opportunity to be the light of the world. This is the show where we talk about everything from marriage and family to parenting and homeschooling. We get real, we share our stories, and we have a whole lot of fun. So
we do it every Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. So tonight's show we're going to be... Hey, that's not nice. So tonight's topic, the times that our kids drive us crazy.
And how fitting.
Yes. How fitting. I'm pretty sure you guys could relate to that topic. A lot of you guys are, either have young kids or they're, teenagers or they're
even worse.
and or they're grown-ups. And so we know lots of people that have gone through parenting. Either they're just starting or they're barely finishing, or they're older. But I think as being a parent, first of all, it's a blessing. There's a lot of couples out there that don't have the blessing of children, and so the way I see it is, it's a challenge, but it's a blessing at the same time.
That's right.
Right? So it's not easy. I remember my mom always telling us that, as parents, we didn't grow up with a book underneath our armpit,
Armpit.
Joshua, because there was to teach you how to be a parent, and it's true, It's not easy, but there's so many wonderful resources out there that we could reach out to help us. There's, experiences from our family, that you see. Yeah, family. That it definitely helps us, with the foundation.
Right.
Right? And so we're going to talk about different experiences that we have, gone through as new parents, because the boys are 3 and 4. And some of them were challenging, and some of them we have learned from that, and we have grown, and we're just, blessed to say that even though they drive us crazy, a lot of the times it's still a learning experience for both of us.
That's right. And so the quote that we want to share, the first quote I want to share this week is, "The first thing that a person finds in life, and the last to which he holds out his hand, and the most precious that he possesses, even if he does not realize it, is family life." And that's from Blessed Adolf Kolping.
Ooh,
I thought that was a beautiful quote. Basically saying that even if you don't understand it or realize it at the time, the most precious thing that you have is your family. It's family life. And like Joanna was saying, it's such a blessing. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to share some of the challenges that we faced. We have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old boy. So we're going to share some of the challenges that we faced, some of those really difficult moments, and what we learned through them, and how to, I guess, overcome them when you're facing those stressful, frustrating, difficult times with your kids. So we're going to be talking about that today. And one other quote, this one's from Pope John Paul II. It says, "To maintain a joyful family requires much from both the parents and the children. Each member of the family has to become, in a special way, the servant of the others." And so those two quotes are going to set us off to talking about what we are going to be discussing tonight. And first up is the purpose of parenthood. So when you thought of becoming a parent, what did you think the reason of being a parent? Like, what do you think is the purpose of parenthood?
Just because, I was going to have a cute little baby, and you were going to dress him up and just have fun with him.
And then what happens when they grow up?
Exactly.
When they're not cute
You're
anymore.
like, oh, okay. Well, funny story, when we first had Joshua, buddy, mommy's talking. Thank you. Play with your toys. When we first had Joshua, he's 4.5 now. We were super excited because he was planned, and yeah, he's growing. We had planned him. Hi, Janice. Hi, sister. So we were like super excited. We had been married for 2 years, I believe, 3 years, 4 years. I don't even know. No, 5 years. We had already been married 5 years. Sorry, I know all these dates. And so the whole pregnancy was a wonderful experience, even till birth. And then we had him, and he was such a good baby. He would sleep 6 hours. I would have to wake him up to eat, feed him. So he was such a wonderful baby. So we're sleeping in the mid, like around 6 o'clock, and I'm telling, what's wrong? Oh, go. He's gonna put something else.
No.
Is it bedtime?
And so, these are the difficult times. Yes. So when we had him, we looked at each other. We're like, man, what are people talking about? Like, this is so easy. Like, he was such a perfect baby, you know, according to us. He was such a good baby. Until this day, like, he's calm, he's mellow. So then we had Elijah a year and a half later, and we're like, whoa. I'm like, he would not sleep. He was never a crybaby, but he was always like awake and just that, like, I didn't get rest, you know. And so just very hyper baby. And so we're like, man, now I know what they're talking about, you know. And so I'm pretty sure people out there that have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, like, it's 3 times as harder, you know. And so we have 2, and sometimes we feel like, man, like, we can't do it, like, we're done, you know. But just that, you know, like, I remember us, you know, mentioning, like, when we first had Joshua, like, this is so easy. Like,
let's just pop out 7 of them.
Yeah, what are people talking about? And so then the second one came, and we're like, yeah, I don't know about that. But so that's you know, a funny story that how it all started with us, you know, with our first child.
That's right. I mean, and they all, obviously, every kid has a different personality, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But I think, you know, some of the way I guess I saw parenthood was the same thing, you know. You have that desire to want to be a parent, or at least that's the way I felt. I wanted to have kids. We talked about it. It took us a while to agree on it and to say, okay, let's do it. Because you're never really ready. You know, you're never prepared to be a parent. It's something that you kind of grow into, I guess. And so once we finally decided we're ready to do this, you know, I was super excited, and we have all kinds of stories we could show about, like, the pregnancy, and I thought it was the most amazing time when she's pregnant. She thought it was the most horrible time of her life. So
uncomfortable.
Started off on the
in
right
the middle
foot.
of the heat. Not fun. Seriously?
It was about to fall. Okay. The purpose of parenthood. So the other thing is to think of parenthood as not just bringing another life into the world. It's not just you know, because I think what we think about as parents is we want the best for our kids, right? Obviously, as a parent, you want the best for your kids, and we always think that the most important thing is to get them into a 4-year university, if not into graduate school, so they can become a doctor or a lawyer or something that's going to make a lot of money and that's going to be prestigious, and then we'll be happy parents, they'll be successful, and that our job is done. But that is not really what the purpose of parenthood is. It's not a bad thing to do. It's not a bad thing to hope for. But if that's all we're hoping for, we're falling short of our goal. We're falling short of the purpose of parenthood. And the way we believe is that parenthood is about raising children. And if you hear those words, raising, you're lifting them up. What are you raising them to? You're not just raising them to put them up on a pedestal as, you know, your trophy child that got a good job and makes a lot of money, right? You're raising them up to God, right? Our goal, our purpose as parents is to get our children to heaven, to raise saints. And that's a totally different perspective, a totally different point of view. And so I think that's what we're going to be, you know, discussing over the next 45 minutes here with you, is that purpose of parenthood.
Well, before you go on, today we had a funny, well, it's not a funny story, but it's an interesting story now that you say that. We went out for breakfast with my mom and my sister in Santa Clarita. And this place, you know, as soon as we entered, the people, like, the ladies that were taking the order, like, super happy, you know, super, like, humble, friendly, you know, like, you could just tell, like, it was, like, a good vibe in there, you know?
These are not LA people.
Probably, I don't know. And so, just very, like, welcoming. I was like, wow. And then my sister was telling me that I guess she met the owner, and he offered her a job, but I guess she didn't take it because she wanted to finish school. Mm-hmm. And so this guy is, like, just simple shirt, like, he blended in with the rest of the people, like his employees. He didn't even look like he was the owner, you know. Mm-hmm. Just simple jeans, you know, with his Crocs. He had Crocs. Yeah. Wow. And he was doing the same job as his employees, and as my sister was like, a lot of people don't know that he's the owner of this place, you know, but he treats everyone the same, and he's what do you call it? He's at the same level as everyone, you know, and he tells them, like, you guys could eat whatever you want, and you could just tell the vibe, you know, of the place. And
right.
And when we say, you know, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being successful, but when, you know, humbleness and just being like, that just puts everything, like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just out of like wow, like that you really see, you know. And I was just amazed, you know, by his attitude. Like, he brought the food to the people, and he's like, oh, is there anything you guys need? And the lady's like, yeah, give me salsas. And he brought him like 10 salsas, you know. So he's like, yeah, a lot of people don't know that he's the owner, but because he doesn't like tell the whole world, like, right. You know, oh, look at me,
it's not about him.
Exactly. So I was just amazed by his attitude and the way he treated people. And so I heard it the other day, I think it was on the radio, when we teach our kids, you know, respect, love, and to love like others, like your neighbor, like, that's the basic of everything, you know. And so
it's
yeah,
more important than how much money they make.
Yeah.
Right? And if you want to learn more about that humility, we talked about that a couple weeks ago on episode 8, so you can find out more. That was episode 8, A Lesson in Humility. So today what we're going to be talking about, as we move on, is when our kids drive us crazy. So if you're a parent, I'm sure you've had, you know, those experiences, whether it's temper tantrums or whatever it is, where your kids just do something that sets you off. Or, you know, for us, you know, for example, we go to church on Sundays, right? And it's crazy because it's like they're behaving fine and well, and as soon as it gets quiet, all of a sudden they feel like now they have to talk, now they have to make noise, and it's like when everybody else is talking and when it's loud, they're quiet, they behave. It's like they know subconsciously or something that, oh, it's quiet now. Now I can make noise. I can hear my voice echo in the church and stuff. And so that's when they start to act up. And those are difficult moments for us because it's like, for two reasons. One is you don't want to bother people. You don't want to feel like embarrassed that you have like the worst behaved kids in the church. And then the other thing is you want to be able to pay attention, right? So they're taking away from the other people's experience, and we're also being distracted, trying to focus on them to get them to behave, to be quiet, which is not natural for them, right? And so...
But before that, we first started, like, once we had the kids, like, they were good when they were babies, until they started getting into the toddler, like, area, like, time, we would always sit on the back. And then Ricky heard somewhere that, you know, don't ever sit on the back, because obviously they get distracted, and we noticed that right away. They wanted to get down and run on the back, and was like, no, this is not working, you know. And they would cry because they didn't want to be down, and so we're like, we need to try something else. So he read on the book saying that, you know, this family always sits in the front. And then we went to an engage encounter, and then a couple shared that they would always sit on the front, you know. And so I'm like, okay, I think this is a sign that we need to try. So we did. We started sitting right at the front, and we noticed the change, like, right away. They started paying attention to what the priest was saying. You know, he would, like, say the tabernacle was like the treasure box or something like that.
They're into pirates, so I would say, you know, there's this big gold box. I would say, look at the treasure chest, and who is our treasure? Jesus is our treasure, and he's inside the tabernacle. And so, obviously, there's ways to teach them. But I think so
we started getting them more involved into the mass, and instead, you know, we would get upset. I remember I had to go to confession and say, you know, like, Father, like, it's not the same anymore. Like, mass is not the same. He's like,
the first couple of years,
yeah, like,
really
it was rough. Like, it was rough. And so that was my experience, like, as a mom, like, okay, this is not working.
Mommy, this is the real.
And I think the challenge is that normally we want to sit in the back or on the side or on the edge because we're like, oh, well, if they start making noise, we can get out without stepping over people.
Yeah.
But what happens is, if there's this whole sea of people in front of them, they're just watching all of this, and it's just distracting to them. Yeah. If you're sitting in the front, they're more likely to pay attention to what's going on, which is better, right? You want them to be knowing what's going on. So that's why we made that change. I read a blog post, and that challenged us, and so it's helped us a little bit. And they're still not perfectly behaved, but
they're really good. Like, compared to how they were before when they were toddlers, they're very good. And then, you know, I remember one time when we had a baptism or something, the priest told us, our priest, he's like, well, we apologized because they were crying, and we went to the back. He's like, don't apologize. Like,
oh, yeah.
they're... If it wasn't... Well, have you remember what he said?
Yeah.
I don't want to say it wrong.
So it was just a regular Sunday Mass, but it was one of those times where it's like they're being misbehaved and you're just angry the whole Mass because you want them to behave. And so after we get out, you know, everyone goes out and you shake Father's hand. And so we did that, and I don't know what we said. He said something to the boys. He baptized Elijah, so he would always like say something to Elijah. And he's like, don't worry about it. He's like, the church is a family. And if there's not baby noises, then it's not a family. And so that's happened to us on a lot of occasions where it's like you're so angry and frustrated and stressed out that you don't really get that same experience of the Mass. And it's always in those moments when they're like not behaving that someone will come up to us afterwards.
Every time.
And it's crazy. Instead of coming up to us and saying, oh, you know, maybe you should go sit in the back or something, they'll be like, oh, your kids are so cute. They're so adorable. Oh, you're such a beautiful family.
We're like, are you sure?
Are you sure you're talking about us?
Next to us, who's next to us? Back.
But we've learned that that's God speaking to us. It's Him encouraging us to keep going. Because it's easy to give up. A lot of parents, what happens is they'll just stop going to church for those few years and say it's not worth it. Like, I'm not getting the same out of it.
Okay. Oh, good job.
So that's one of the biggest challenges I think that we had in the first couple of years with the kids was that, because you're so used to a certain way, a certain pattern, and your life is never the same.
No, and we just had to come to a surrendering, moment. Yes. Like we just had to surrender and say, it's not going to be the same. And again, with the same thing with homeschooling, we're like, I'm keeping my kids at the house, homeschooling them. Seriously, babe?
There's a fly, sorry, I'm trying to kill the fly.
He just turned off my phone.
No, it's still going.
Ricky is, I don't know, no more for you.
No, it's a fly.
But yeah, seriously.
It's like crawling across the screen.
And so, you made me lose my train of thought.
We'll come back to it. So, but we're talking about the moments that we drive our kids drive us crazy, and what we learn from them.
Just surrendering. We just had to come to a point that we're like, I surrender. I'm not gonna, get crazy over this situation because it's not gonna make it any, better for a couple of years, And we just have to say, again, how can we make this 1 hour, experience different for them as well too, So we started taking like religious books, like the kids' Bibles, and so while again getting them involved, like if they start acting up, we're like, okay, we're gonna go up there, and look, Jesus is right there. So kind of entertain them in a way, and till this day we still sit at the front. We still usually they kicked us back a little bit because of the confirmation group, but usually we sit like on the second row and they're distracted, and so it works. So that's one of the biggest experience that we have. It had really hit us.
I remember, I think our firstborn was like 5 months old when I had that first surrender experience, and it was actually in the crying room, because we used to sit at our old parish when we first had our first boy. It was in the crying room. It's like those rooms off to the side where it's like a door and the glass, and you're sitting back there, and all the kids are in there playing and eating and messing around, and you basically have a horrible experience of the Mass, and you're basically teaching them that that's what you do when you come to Mass. And so I realized early on that we're not going to do this crying room thing anymore, because I want my kids to have an experience of the Mass. I want them to know what Mass is really about, instead of just going and making it about, playtime. And so I was struggling. He was only 5 months old at that time, and I remember that I was going up to communion, and they started playing this song, "Oh, How He Loves Us," and I just started crying, and I'm looking down in my 5-month-old son's eyes, and I'm just realizing, wow, God loves me. And it wasn't about, how I feel or what that, moment was, or that experience that I was longing for, to just realize, God loves me, and I'm here for God, and He's here for me, and that's all that matters. It might not be the same experience every time. I might not get warm and fuzzy every time, but the fact that I'm there for the right reason, that I'm trying, I think that matters more than if I have a beautiful experience. So that was for me, that surrender moment where I realized, what, God, I can't do anything about this. This is what you've called me to be a parent. I've got to learn to live it. And that was my surrender moment.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Brother Jorge. Hi, Yesenia. Yeah. Yesenia. Hola, Tío. David. Hi, Mother. Well, right now I just got an example because one of my friends is watching, and I remember she commented something that she said, like, there's no more, like, birthdays or partying, like, as a parent, like, it changes, like, because they get sick and so forth, and, your friends, like, you don't have the same friends, and we noticed that, like, we used to get invited to all these events and parties, and, like, we had kids, and it's like, not anymore. And so we're like, okay, so we started, like, getting involved more with the kids and stuff, And so I remember my friend commented saying, like, it's never going to be the same, and it's not, unfortunately, but how can we make it positive? So I commented, instead of you going out to these parties, and sometimes that you can, why don't you invite your friends over to your house? Like, I'm that type of person. If I can't go, come on over. We'll have fun here at the house, or like with kids. And so we had that, like, little, nights with our friends, like, she'll bring over the kids, so the kids could play and stuff. And it's just a transition as a parent. Things change, unfortunately, but how can we make those situations, different and better for everyone as well too? So it's interesting, and there's so many other experiences that we could talk and keep going, but definitely the church one has definitely has changed us. But like I mentioned, we're still there, we're still going, and they always have the what is it called, like the little church, like for kids and stuff. And so our kids are like super shy, so they don't even want to go. So
we're too young too. It's supposed to be for like school age kids.
Yeah, so we're hoping once they get a little older, they can start going and learning as well too for their age level.
Yep. And so I think we've shared a couple of experiences from us about when our kids were driving us crazy. And even when we do these videos, we have these experiences, because every time, we turn on the lights, and so they see and they're attracted to come over here, and sometimes they distract us and make us lose our train of thought. But what I think we've learned is that when our kids are driving us crazy, God is speaking to us. And He's trying to tell us something. And there's a couple of different things that we can learn from this. A couple of different things that I think God might be speaking to us, might be saying to us in those moments. And so we're going to go through a couple of different things that God might be saying to you when your kids are driving you crazy. So number one is to learn patience.
Woo! That's a hard word. Patience.
The book of Proverbs says, the patient are better than warriors, and those who rule their temper better than the conqueror of a city. That's Proverbs 16, verse 32. And I think that's a big challenge, right? And when you think about growing in patience, we all know that we want to be more patient, that we should be more patient, but the only way to grow in patience is to be patient. And so it's kind of funny, that's the only way to learn it, to grow in it, is to do
surrender.
It. And when you like, there's people who are afraid to ask God for patience because they'll say, well, then He's just going to give me more ways to be patient. And in a way it's true, because that's the only way you can learn, right? How else are you going to learn to be patient? So God provides you many opportunities as a parent to learn patience.
Yeah. Even till they're like 30, 50, 40, you still need to have patience with them.
Yes. Do you know, is there any experience that you've gone through with them that you feel like, you had to learn patience? Or
every day? Every day, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm here, we decided to homeschool, so I'm literally with them all day. And so when Ricky gets home, 6 o'clock, it's 5:36, I'm like, they're yours. Like, I'm done. Because it's like, I tell him, being a mother, a stay-home mom, even working moms is not easy. Like, even for guys, like, being a parent in general is not easy, And so it's like, every day you're just like, one little thing, like, little examples, like, you clean here, and then they're breaking something over there, and you're just like, but it's like,
or you put the stuff away here, and then you go over there, and they're taking that stuff back out.
Yeah. But, we have learned to just, like, okay, we have to give it up. And, even when they get sick, they're like, we've noticed that when the boys get sick, they're just there laying there. And we're like, man, we prefer them, like, running around and breaking things. Because it's sad to see them just there, not having any energy and stuff, So, even though, again, you get frustrated and tired of them sometimes, but there has to be a balance with everything. So you just have to accept it, and again, it's a cycle that we all go through, and it's just temporarily, but not like fully.
Well, in a way, because like you said, you're never stop being a parent, and what you're learning as far as patience goes is something that you're never going to stop learning. Even if your kids are grown and you're not worried about them anymore, you still have to learn to be patient in other ways. Yeah. So I think it's a good virtue to grow in no matter what, whether you're a parent or not.
Yeah, and I remember, I was going to say that at the end, but a friend of ours from our retreats that we do, he said it. It's Pat and Kay.
Oh, they were talking about the whole idea as okay, well, you know, once my kids get a little bit older, then it's going to be better. And I think someone shared with them, and then they shared it with us, but they said that it doesn't get better, it just gets different. And it's true, because you go through these phases or seasons of life, and you're learning different things and growing in different ways. And like I said, you're never going to stop being a parent no matter what, but you're going to learn different things through that experience. So, number one, as far as how God speaks to us when our kids are driving us crazy, is learning patience. Number two, to love like God. Exodus chapter 34 verse 6 says, "So the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in love and fidelity." So that whole idea of being slow to anger, because there's plenty of opportunities, and we've had that same experience of when you just want to go after those kids for doing whatever they did, breaking things or doing what they're not supposed to do, and it's frustrating because you feel that anger, but you know, like I wanna, but I can't.
Okay, calm down.
Sometimes, not all the time. No, but we have to be honest. We have those moments, right? There's moments where you don't know what else to do. You've talked to them nicely, you've said it, you've warned them, and it gets to that point where you just get angry. But then we hear, like it said right here about God, that he's slow to anger and abounding in love and fidelity. And we got to follow that example, right? We have to learn to be slow to anger. And again, parenthood provides plenty of opportunities for learning to control your anger. And I think anger comes from selfishness too, because you want them to do what you want them to do. But and that's one of the things I've learned too through parenthood is God reveals to you things about himself through parenthood. And so that's one of the things that I learned is that, you know, the way we deal with our kids shows us how God feels about us. Because there's lots of times where God probably feels that way about us. He wants to come after us and just whack us upside the head and say, "Ricky, why are you doing this? You know, I told you not to do this." And so I think it's kind of a lesson that we learn because we feel that same way with our kids. We go through that same experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Every day.
So this whole idea of learning to love like God. Life is about learning to love like God, but I think parenthood especially teaches us how to love like God, because like I remember when the kids were born, like it's just completely different. Like just looking at them, watching them do whatever they do, and you just feel this love that's just so powerful. And I think God again blesses us with that opportunity because we learn to see them as he sees us, right? God sees us as his children, right? And so we believe, I think, that God is showing us in our parenthood how we can learn to love like he loves. Because he loves unconditionally, right? Even if we do something wrong, he still loves us. So even if our kids do something wrong, do we still love them? And the way we handle that situation in that moment, is that the way God handles it with us? And so I think that's something that it's a hard lesson to learn sometimes, but it's a good one and a very important one.
Yeah. Veronica, yes, you are so right. And you just reminded me, and that's where I heard it. We went to a baptism, a 7-year-old baptism, a young little girl, this week, and the deacon, like really just got into the topic of, again, we need to teach our kids to love, to respect, and, patience. It's the greatest of everything else, because it really teaches you. And he was saying, if we don't teach our kids to do that, how are we going to expect them to do the same with us, when we get older? So you're like right on spot. And he mentioned that too, that he set an example of a family that his son was like, and he saw this family was 25 years old, and he was amazed by seeing how he treated his parents, like very loving. Like he would come up to the dad and like touch his face and hug him, like very lovable.
Just like you do to me.
Yeah. And so he was just like amazed to see the way he loved his parents so much. So just imagine this, Elijah. No. They're playing with connections. So just imagine how you know, this child of these parents, he would do the same with his wife, and then this couple starts doing that with his kids. So it's just again, you know, it's a ripple effect that you start in your own home. And so it's very true, and I definitely agree with that. And that's where I heard it about, you know, the being successful and stuff. And we've been talking that a lot because I think it's important. I remember, you know, even with homeschooling, it says, you know, how many people like change careers like in 1 year. Like most of us, like we do. I remember when I was young, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and then I moved to California. Like, nope, it's not for me because there's a lot of competition, and just the way fashion was going, I was like, this is not for me. And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be an interior designer. So then I'm like, nope, it's not working for me, you know. I loved it. I thought it was, you know, a great talent. I've always liked, you know, design and being creative. And so from that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do business. I like business. So that was like 3 times in like 2 years, you know, that I changed it. And so we're never happy with what, you know, what we think, and we expect that it's meant to be for us, you know. And so when I heard that about the homeschooling, you know, and we have learned a lot. It's like, you know, we go through so much changes because, you know, our lives change, but we're never 100% happy, you know, because it's not meant to be for us. And so, like, who would have thought that I was going to be a stay-home mom, homeschool, like, never in a million years, you know. And so why? Because that's what God wanted for us, you know. And so it's the same thing with family. Sometimes we have a vision for our family and for our kids, but sometimes it's not God's vision, you know. And so yeah, so that's just reminded me of what the deacon said.
That's true. So number 3, where are you with God? And I think that's another one of the things that, you know, when you, in Galatians 5:22-23, it says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Does that describe you? Those are the fruits of the Spirit, right? Love.
Are you lovable?
Joy.
Are you joyful?
Peace.
Are you peaceful?
Patience. Kindness. Generosity.
That's a lot.
Faithfulness.
More.
Gentleness. Self-control. So do those things describe you? If not, then maybe that Spirit is not working in you as much as you need it to be, right? And I think the way we respond to our children in those difficult moments, it bears witness to how we are inside, how we are in our relationship with God, right? Because if we're not good spiritually, it's going to show in the way we treat our kids and the way we treat our family, right? Because we're going to get angry. We're going to fly into
and for those of you that don't have kids, that's for everyone, you know, with your girlfriend, with your parents, with your grandkids, with your nieces and nephews. Like, this is for everyone, you know, the whole family. And so, and this is why I love so much, you know, sharing time with others, because we learn so much from them. And little examples like, you know, like we're talking about, we had some friends over this weekend, the same day that we had the baptism, and she was telling us that her daughter was at school, and they had to talk about like something about like moms, or remember what she said?
Like what their mom does, or
what their mom does, or what do you want them to change, or something like that. And she's like, oh,
or what would they do without you?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
she said watch more TV, right? No,
she's like, oh, well, she watches TV all day. And she's like, well, what do you want him to do more?
The question was that.
I don't remember.
What would your mom do if she didn't have you? And she said, oh, she'll probably be able to watch more TV.
No, it wasn't that. She was like talking bad about her mom.
But that because she can't watch novelas or something, I don't know.
No, she was saying that she watched too much TV. And then the other thing is like, oh, she doesn't, oh gosh, you don't remember what she said?
No.
Something like that. But she's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about, you know, why would you put something like that? She was little. And she's like, I didn't have anything to put. I didn't know what to put, you know. So like little things like that sometimes like we think we're like the greatest, you know, but our kids see us differently because of the way we treat them. what can your mom do less of? Thank you, Carmen. And so she's like, watch TV. And she's like, what? Like, I don't even watch that much TV, you know? And then another example where just like, sometimes like these kids learn, like kids at this like young age, like learn so many things like so fast. So we just have to be careful with, you know,
the example that you set.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Like I'm always, you know, telling people, it's like, yeah, we could talk all we want. Yeah, we could say everything. But if we're not being the example that we should be, the version that God wants us to be, we always say, you know, our best version of ourselves, like, there's no point, you know? So, and that goes with our family, with our kids, with your friends, with your family. So that's, you know, it covers a big overall.
Right.
Okay, I'll hold on.
So, let's see, that's number 3. So number 4, be selfless. Philippians chapter 2 verses 3 and 4 says, do nothing out of selfishness or out of vainglory. Rather humbly regard others as more important than yourselves, each looking out not for his own interest, but also everyone for those of others. And obviously many times our kids can drive us to the point of losing our tempers, right? And it happens to all of us.
Our brothers or sisters any or our family members.
But I think what we've come to realize is that in the majority of those cases, the reason that we get frustrated is because they're preventing us, by needing us, they're preventing us from doing what we want to do. Mm-hmm. And I learned this lesson so many times when I'm putting the kids to sleep at night. Because that would be the time where like, oh, I have to work on this project, or, oh, I have to go do this thing that I couldn't do because I had to work today. And so that's in the back of my mind that, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And so since they're not falling asleep fast enough for me, so that I can go do what I want to do, then I would get frustrated with them. And I started to realize the reason I'm frustrated is not because they're not going to sleep. The reason I'm frustrated is because they're preventing me from doing what I want to do. But what I want to do is not more important than this moment that I'm spending with my children. This is a bonding moment that I have with them as I'm putting them to sleep, whether it's reading a bedtime story or saying a prayer or just being there with them, singing them songs while they fall asleep. And it really hit me, and it's like when they say the truth hurts, it hurts. Like it's like stabbing me in the heart, because it's like, wow, you know.
Were you gonna cry?
I wasn't gonna cry. A lot. No, but there's times where like it hits you, and at that moment I felt like, wow.
Cry for me.
I'd cry for you, babe.
Once, probably when we got married only.
True, I did cry when we got married. But yeah, I think that was one of those moments where it's like, wow, you know. I'm getting mad at them because I would rather be over here working on some project than putting them to sleep. And what does that say about me as a parent, right? That I love my work more than I love my kids. So
I've had that. I've been through that as well too, because I'm an event planner. I'm always super busy. Like my head is like, do this, you know, planner. And so sometimes I'll be like, go away, I need to do this. And so there was one time that it hits and you're like, okay, this is wrong.
I'm a horrible parent.
No. I'm so bad.
I think sometimes you feel like that. You don't realize it until you say something or you do something, and then you step back and you're like, wow, I'm that bad. Seriously, and it's good though, because it's your conscience speaking to you saying, I need to change this.
But it's a good thing that we go through those situations to teach us, you know. And if we didn't go through that, we would have been perfect. But we're not perfect, you know. So they're all learning experiences for us and for others out there.
And going back to that same, you know, scenario is, I realized later on when I don't have something that I'm waiting to go do or whatever, I'm more at peace with, you know, the fact that they don't want to go to sleep right away. You know, if it takes me 20 or 30 minutes to get them to go to sleep, I don't get frustrated with them, because I don't have this thing in the back of my mind saying, oh, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that. This is the moment. I'm in this moment with my kids. So that idea of being selfless, I think, is very important. Selfless in many ways. The fact that, you know, they come before everything. Obviously, our relationship, and we've talked about this, as husband and wife, should come first, because if we're not in the right space,
on the same page,
but even if we're not good, like if we're fighting or we're having some issues, that's gonna show up in them. And so our marriage comes before our children. That's something that some people don't get.
So God first, then your marriage, then your kids.
Yes.
Which was hard to accept at the beginning too. It's like,
because you want to put all your energy and everything into your kids, and it's just natural, right? Because you have that unconditional love for them. But if I'm more focused on my kids than I am on my wife, the whole family's going to suffer. And so that's important to remember that. Number 5, don't blame it on them.
Es por tu culpa.
Therefore, you are without excuse, every one of you who passes judgment. For by the standard by which you judge another, you condemn yourself, since you, the judge, do the very same things. And that's from the Romans chapter 2, verse 1. So, obviously we know this, right? It's always easier to point the finger at somebody else.
But there's 3 pointing back.
Than to accept what you're doing, right? Than to point it back at yourself.
Yep. Not easy to accept.
So many times, our children can be difficult, right? We could struggle with them. We could think that they're just misbehaving or just being horrible kids. But maybe it's not them. Maybe it's us that's causing the problem. Maybe we're stressed out, right? Maybe I'm stressed out about work or money or my relationship with Joanna, and that's affecting the way that they're behaving. Mm-hmm. And we don't think about that. We just see the symptoms, right? We see that the symptoms of what's going on with me is affecting them. And it's causing them to act out. It's causing them to misbehave. But we don't think about that because we don't want to point the finger at ourselves. We don't want to accept the blame, right? So we say, man, these kids are just being horrible. Why are they being so bad, right? But I think that's an important lesson to learn too, is not to blame it on them. Think about, what is the situation? Are you going through something that's affecting them emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever? Is it affecting your kids? Because I think that's something that we neglect to even think about. We just say, oh man, they're just being bad kids.
Well, you see it a lot when, there's, divorces. Like, we've seen, like, the effect it does to children. Like, you might think, like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll get through it because we love them, on both sides. But it really does affect, the family, first of all, and the kids. So that's a big example right there, divorce. Or like Ricky mentioned, when you're fighting, you think like, oh, they don't hear you and stuff. But kids are very smart, like, especially like young kids. Like, I mean, every age they're smart, they see everything and they'll always remember the bad things. But my mom says, like, you remember the bad things, but you don't remember the good things that I did, and so that's just a fact, And so, again, blaming them and accepting that, okay, we need to step back and see what changes do we have to do as parents, and that's what I love. And I always, share this with people. It's like, how can we better ourselves? There's so many resources out there, there's books, there's videos. Ricky's a book reader, so he's always reading. So when like something's going on with like the family, with our kids, and we're like, you better start reading and like let me know, how can we fix this, and I'm a video person. Like, I like visual. I'm a visual person, so I always like Google things, how to like, speak to teenagers and so forth, because that's how we learn. We have to get out of our comfort zone and, reach out to different resources, friends, family, priests, pastors, so forth, because that's what helps us, that's what helps us grow ourselves, first of all, and then we could, start not changing our family or our kids, but they'll they'll be learning from us. So definitely, not pointing fingers at people. And when we do point at fingers, at people, that means that there has to be a change within us, and that's, again, not only with kids, but our family, our friends, our, parents, our brothers and sisters, and so forth. So we have a question, so I hope you guys could get involved, and then we could talk to you guys about it. It says, have you ever felt like your children are driving you crazy? So for those of you that are watching, and if you guys have kids, have you ever felt like they're driving you crazy? Is it a daily, or is it not really? You have good kids? And so it says, so that's the first question. So please respond so we could, get more examples and get this conversation going. We still have a couple of minutes. And it says, looking back, what do you think God was trying to tell you in that moment? So even just an experience, you know, what did you learn from that experience when they were driving you crazy, you know? Another example, like for us, like going to restaurants. We loved, you know, going out to eat. We're very outside people. Like we like, you know, hiking, camping, vacations. As you guys probably know, like you see pictures that I'm always posting. We love going out. Why? Because now we have the kids, you know. But before that, we've always liked to be out there. And one was going out to eat, you know, restaurants. So that's another one. It's never been the same again. Like I was not a big fan of Chuck E. Cheese's or Peter Piper Pizza. I was like, I'm never gonna stand.
Or McDonald's.
Yeah, no. I'm never gonna step a foot in there. Like, no way. What happened? Now that's all they want. Like, that's where we see, like, they're like having fun and like it makes your day, like seeing your kids, you know, enjoying the time.
And it lets you have time to eat your food.
Yeah. Not even like we eat all that. Okay, let's go play now because I want to play, you know.
No, I mean us though, because you go to a fancy restaurant and you don't have time to eat.
It's so hard to go to fancy restaurants. Like I'll be telling the waitress, do you have colors or do you have like, so they can be distracted, you know. We'll take coloring books or books for them just to keep them distracted. And so again, you know, we just have to like just kind of accept the situation the way it is, and how can we make it into a positive, you know, situation, you know. And so I was telling them the questions.
Okay.
So have you ever felt like your children are driving you crazy? And yes or no or maybe or...
And then the follow-up one says, looking back, what do you think God was trying to tell you in that moment? So we just shared 5 examples of what we think that maybe God is trying to say in those moments. Maybe there's something that we passed over or something that you could share. We would love to hear.
I remember my mom like did this tactic, like supposedly so she stopped screaming to us. She's like, everybody's going to wear rubber bands in their hands, and whoever screams, like, you're going to snap yourself. And I'm like, that's not going to work. And it didn't work. Like, we're just like, the neck. It didn't hurt us, you know. But, so there's so many different ways that you could always, you know, I don't want to say educate yourself, but always, you know, learn from other people as well, too, you know, to implement those ideas into your lifestyle.
Right.
Yep.
So we're going to move on to one more. We got about 10 minutes left. So we're going to share one more segment. And this is 3 ways that parenthood can make you a saint. So we talked about the idea that, you know, having kids, being a parent is about raising saints, right? It's about raising your children to heaven, to God.
But and when we say saints, that means like we want them to go to heaven, right? We want them to go somewhere positive. Because obviously you know where the other one is going to go, you know? And so... how can we start that process or that ladder going up there, you know?
Right. Because it's our responsibility as parents to get them to heaven. It's my responsibility as a husband to get my wife to heaven.
Is that the first time that you guys have ever heard that? Say yes or no.
So that whole idea of raising saints, of getting your children to heaven, that's what parenthood is all about. But it also has a side effect of making you a saint. So... 3 ways parenthood can make you a saint. Jesus says in Matthew 16:24, he says, whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. So there's 3, we're going to share 3 ways parenthood can make you a saint based off of that quote from Jesus. So number 1, to deny yourself, right? Obviously, being a parent, you know, raising children is a surefire way of denying yourself, because you have to put yourself on the back burner, on the side, and focus on them and what they need. Not always what they want, but what they need, right? And it's the perfect opportunity for us to learn to live for others, which is what Jesus is challenging us to do. I know I needed, and I've shared this before, I needed to be a parent and a husband in order to learn that. I never would have understood that. I never would have lived that out without being a parent. So I know that's why God gave me this vocation of being a parent, because it forces me to have to live for others. Everything that I do is for my wife and my kids.
But if you don't learn from us, then how do you expect to go out into the world and do the same thing?
Exactly. So it's a good thing. I'm not complaining about it. But I think that's something that we all have to learn as parents, is that when we think of these things that Jesus, all these crazy things that Jesus challenges us to do, and we just think, well, maybe he's just like this crazy guy who wants to make our life horrible, right? But no, he's God. He said he's God. He rose from the dead. He proved that he's God. So if he's God, then we know that what he's telling us has
meaning,
weight and meaning, right? So if he says, if you want to follow me, you must deny yourself. What does that mean to deny yourself? That's exactly what it means.
Not suffering, surrendering.
Surrender. And I think in parenthood, as we've been discussing, provides you the perfect opportunity to deny yourself. So, we think that, to be a saint or to follow Jesus, we have to be single, we can't have any connections. But it's not true, because being a parent is the perfect opportunity to deny yourself. Would you say that's true?
Yeah. Even like if you don't have kids, like your spouse sacrificing for each other, your family, like it's, again, this is not only for people that have kids, like it goes beyond
family
that.
In general, yeah. It forces you to put others before yourself. Mm-hmm. And then he also says, deny yourself. Then he says, take up your cross. So I've seen like these reflections that they'll share about, there's this guy and he's complaining about the cross that he has because, Jesus gives us our cross, right? And so we all have different crosses. Some are too heavy, some are too big, some are too small, whatever. We can complain about the cross that we have. And at the end, it gets to the point where there's like a cliff, like a canyon that he has to cross. And he didn't want the big cross, he wanted the small one. And because of that, the cross doesn't reach across to the other side in order for him to walk across like a little bridge. And his cross is too small, so now he doesn't get across into heaven, right? And so I thought it was an interesting way to put it, right? Because God gives us our cross. He gives us the way. We all have a different way to get to where he wants us to go, right? And where does he want us to go? To heaven. He wants us to be saints. But we're all made saints through different experiences, through different ways of life, right? And so I think as parents, God's going to give us the kids that we need. And Joanna was sharing earlier about how our firstborn was like the perfect baby and we never had trouble with him or anything. But then the second one was the complete opposite. And they have completely different personalities. Most of the time they get along, but they both challenge us in different ways, I guess you could say.
They're boys.
Right, but I think they challenge us in different ways to take up that cross, right? And I think God knows what we need, and so he gives us the children that we need. And sometimes you think, why did I get this horrible kid? Well, maybe God knows that you needed that to help you in whatever way you're learning and growing throughout that time that you're raising that child. So God gives us the kids that we need, not the kids that we want. Because we all want perfect kids that are happy and easy.
Just two, because that's all we can handle.
Yeah. So I think...
so maybe he's calling us to have 5 or 7.
And the last one is follow Jesus. So he says, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. So following Jesus. If you think about the men who followed Jesus, what did they do? Jesus said, come and follow me. It says that they left behind their nets and their boats on the shore and they followed him. So that symbolizes their livelihood, right? That's what they did for a living. They were fishermen. So they left all that behind, left everything basically to go and follow Jesus. So does that mean if I want to follow Jesus, I've got to leave my wife, leave my kids, and go and just follow Jesus and just sit in a corner and pray all day? No. Right? But how do I follow Jesus as a parent? Question.
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Can I follow Jesus and be a parent at the same time? Because I think sometimes we think, again, we look at the saints and we see priests and nuns, and we don't think about married people and family life. But there are saints. Maybe we don't recognize them because we focus our attention on the ones who we see up there on the altar, or the ones that we see out there, feeding the poor and doing all these wonderful things. But I remember in our catechism class, we used to teach catechism, and it was a few years back, and we were talking about we're talking about the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. And it's, feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, visit the imprisoned, shelter the homeless. And so one of the parents pointed out, I don't go out into the streets and do all these things and like feed homeless people and give them stuff, but I do that with my kids. because my kids need food, they need drink, they need shelter, and we visit them when they're sick. And if you think about it, I was like, wow, I had never thought about it. We had a newborn baby at the time, so I hadn't, really even thought about parenthood as a pathway to holiness. And so when she said that, and this was Linda, I remember she said that, and it just, wow, like it opened my eyes. I was like, wow, it's true, We as parents, we can do all those things in the household without ever going out into the streets and finding a homeless person. We always think about living out the works of mercy as going and picking up some homeless person off the street, which is a great thing. You can do that. We've helped homeless people in the past. I'm not saying don't do that, but just being a parent in the household provides you with plenty of opportunities to live out all of these works of mercy, right? And so I think that's something that maybe we focus too much on, like the social justice and getting out into the world and helping poor people and stuff, and we don't focus on our family who needs those same things. How do you feel about that?
I agree, and we have talked about it a lot. That the changes or anything that we do, it needs to start in your own home. What does that mean? Your husband, your kids. Because if you're not, and I've heard it many times. It's like, my mom is not doesn't act like this, when she goes to church with us, and I've heard it many times,
Or she does at church, but not at home.
Exactly. She's that way, not with us, and so everything that we do, it needs to start in our house, and that's very true. This is the first time I've ever heard it, and it's like, how are we serving our family first? And yeah, God calls us to do many, things, go out into the world, but if we're not starting it with our own family, again, what's the point if we're not doing it with them? And Ricky had mentioned it before, if you don't, I just went blank. If they're like the second generation, so if we don't teach them to do the same, what we're teaching them for their own family, like what are they learning, and so it's all positive, reinforcement. I'm not saying like all the time, like we fail as parents and so forth, but it's always there. Like we have to remember that we need to start with them, and sometimes, like Ricky said, we have to die to ourselves, like say, okay, that's what parenthood is all about, and sometimes we have to leave things that we liked, but and the way I always say, you have them such a short time. Like I was thinking about it, it's like he's already 5 years old, like our little one. It's like, man, where does time go? Time flies. So we need to my mom was telling me, like, there was a car accident in Santa Clarita. A young man, 24 years old, a tire from a different car popped, and I guess it flew and it hit him, like his windshield, and it killed him instantly. And it's like, we forget how valuable time and life is, precious. And so precious, exactly. And so every opportunity that we can get to enjoy with those that we love, take it, do it, even though you're tired or frustrated. It's like, you don't know that that's going to be the last time. And we had talked about this the other time when, we heard that the 34 kids died in Africa. It's like, you don't know when that it's that last day that you're going to see that family member, friends. And so, again, we need to remember, like, it's not easy being a human being, It's not, especially a Christian, like, I remember my friends, like, told me, like, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. It's like, it's not going to be easy, it's going to be harder, but God has a purpose for all of us, and that purpose is for us to be saints and to teach our kids to be, to be saints as well too. And they're going to be teaching that to their family. So it's a ripple effect, like that movie we talked about, Collateral Beauty, with Will Smith. And it's like, it's a continuous wheel that you want to keep going. Spin. Yep.
So that's about all our time we have tonight. We're thankful that you joined us, that you watched this video. If you're watching it later, thanks.
Share it. Yes.
Definitely share it.
Comment below.
The question that we had asked earlier, we still want to hear your impact or your thoughts on that. Have you ever felt?
Sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
Have you ever felt that your children are driving you crazy? And looking back, what do you think God was trying to tell you in that moment?
So please comment. One, because your answers, you don't know if your answer could help somebody else. I always say testimony is the greatest touching thing that somebody else can hear. So please comment if you feel to comment. We would appreciate it. Share the video if you think you love the video. Share it on your page, or what is it called, newsfeed, so others can see it as well. And we just want to thank you for joining us tonight. We're gonna be here next Thursday at 8 p.m. and we'll finish off with what our friend had told us. You know, it doesn't get better, but it's just different. So it doesn't get better, but it's just different, and that's in every cycle of our life, since the beginning of life from
the womb to the tomb.
And I always remember, whatever you teach your kids or your those around you, just it comes back. It comes back. And just like Veronica said, like, I want to teach my kids to love and to respect, and to have patience with them, because once we get older, we pray and we hope that they do the same thing for us, and I always remember, like, when we go to funerals, like, we've been to a couple of funerals, and like, you see them full of people, and it's like, and that just hit home. Or like, when we die, who's gonna be there? Who did we touch? And hopefully our kids and others as well too.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Have a good night, and we'll see you guys next Thursday.
And I want to remind you this quote that I read earlier. It says, the first thing that a person finds in life, and the last to which he holds out his hand, and the most precious that he possesses, even if he does not realize it, is family life. Blessed Adolf Colton.
I thought you were going to say Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Colton. Okay. Family life is beautiful, and it helps us grow in holiness to be people that God has created us to be. So thank you for watching. We will see you next week.
Bye. Bye, guys. Bye.